welcome to Waves of Wisdom. I'm your host, Ariel, and
I'm Danielle.
we have a special guest today. This is Megan.
Hey, nice to meet y'all.
Yes, she is our regional director
Yes.
at Healthcare for Kids. So let's start there. What is Healthcare for Kids?
Healthcare for Kids is a pediatric care center. So we care for children who are medically fragile during the day. We provide nursing care and therapy with you all while they're there. Our kids are cared for by a team of highly qualified pediatric nurses and care techs.
Oh, I forgot to mention, you are a pediatric nurse. That's how you got started, right?
Nurse, yes.
And so how long have you been working in this PPEC world,
in
right?
In the PPEC world, 9 years.
Nice.
And in the PEDS world, 13 years.
Nice. Yeah, there's always, there's a shortage of providers in general, but especially pediatric providers, especially in Southwest Florida, right? So we got connected through PPEC, right? I started there when I made the switch from adults and then pandemic times when it was very crazy. And I was able to see I never knew PPEC existed. It's kind of like this mystery thing, right?
We rode from it for years.
Right. So PPEC, you said, stands for Prescribed Pediatric Extended Care.
Correct.
Right. So yes, essentially it's a medical daycare for medically fragile kids. It's amazing because there's so many kids that have needs beyond what an outpatient center could do from just a therapy perspective, or even, home health nursing. We kind of combine those two worlds, right? So today we're going to be talking about PPEC and how we interact with nursing, how it interacts with therapy, and how it overall is beneficial to these kids that we get to serve, right? So we talked a little bit about what is a PPEC, Prescribed Pediatric Extended Care. So where do these kids come from, and what ages do we serve? I think is a good place to start.
We can serve anywhere from babies who are out of the NICU all the way up until they're 21 years old when they age out of the Medicaid. And we've had kiddos in our center for a very long time that have been there since they were babies.
And it really is, it's a great spot for a lot of these kids because these kids are not able to attend school, right?
Correct.
Because of
their medical conditions. Our goal is always to try to get a child into the school system when they're ready and they graduate from PPEC. We love to see our graduates. But if they don't qualify for school or their medical needs stipulate that school's just not the best option for them, then they can stay with us full time.
Yeah.
And they go home every night to their mamas, but it's a good breakup of their day. They're not just sitting at home all day, every day. They get to come in, they get to see their friends, they get to hang out with other children, they get developmental stimulation, they get lots of therapy.
Lots of love.
They get so much more therapy than they do outpatient. And lots and lots of love. We love all of our babies dearly.
Yes, and our big babies too, right?
They will always be
They're always our babies.
No matter how old
big
they
are.
are.
They're our babies.
Yeah, and I think even in the few years that I've been there, I've seen quite a few kids graduate. We've had them from the NICU when they were post NICU, and then up until age 4 or even 3.5. I think they go to VPK, which is our goal. And even our kids, I'm thinking of our one little friend that graduated last year. When we first started seeing him, he had so many medical needs, and he was in PO, not eating by mouth. And then a few years later, he's
kindergarten.
And now we get to maybe see him over summer.
And so we do take kids that come, if they go to school all year and you're struggling to find somewhere for them in the summertime, we can take those kiddos. A lot of our graduates that'll go to school will then come back to us during the summer.
And the school breaks, right? Yeah, and they still qualify. They still get to get some intensive therapy, kind of catching up, because we'll say that, PPEC is great for a multitude of reasons. And one of them is the multidisciplinary approach that it promotes, right? So that interaction between speech, OT, PT, nursing, and then how we coordinate beyond that, we'll talk a little bit more about. But even just these disciplines between us, it's very much, at least the way Healthcare for Kids is set up, is very much interdisciplinary. We're all one big team. We love taking, the information that nursing gets. We always get an update, okay, are meds changing? Are behaviors changing? Y'all are able to communicate those sorts of things. How are feedings going?
And implement all of those things. And each child gets a very specific care plan and individual care plan. They're not all under one umbrella, and this is how everybody's cared for. Every child is cared for very specifically according to their needs, both medically, physically, and developmentally.
Right. And so the way it's kind of set up is, at least again at Healthcare for Kids, you have an infant baby room, kind of a profound bed bound or wheelchair bound room, which is a quieter, kind of more stable environment, right?
Yeah. It's more like more medical.
Yes.
And more one-on-one nursing care.
Yes. And then kind of the toddler, more ambulatory room, the wild one.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's more of the transitionary room from the toddler room into the school
into
setting.
a school setting. Yes. Where they do activities, they go outside to play. It's kind of structured more, they sit at the table to eat like a school day. So then when they go to school, that transition is a lot easier for them.
Exactly. And especially like carrying over into if they have feeding or swallowing needs, we get to work on that directly at that kind of peer setting at the tables and kind of promoting peer interaction, which is what these kids are going to have when they go to school.
And a lot of them do so much better when they go from the baby room into the toddler room and they're sitting with their friends at the table eating.
Getting those social
and
cues.
Oh, okay. I can do
what
this.
I do.
I can eat. I can be with my friends.
And then even on like a physical aspect, that that functional ambulation from one area of the room to the other. Well, I'm going to follow so-and-so over here. We're going to go play with these blocks at the table. So getting all that positive peer modeling in that setting has been wonderful.
Right. And beyond like those of us that, and we didn't mention that in each of those rooms, there is a registered nurse. It's incredible. Full-time in the room. They don't leave the room.
Yep. And then there's also a patient care tech that helps care for the kids.
Yeah.
And promotes activities. And our ratio is a lot smaller than in a hospital. So they get a lot more individualized
care too,
or in
right?
a daycare.
I was going to ask, do you know offhand what that ratio is?
So it's 3-to-1. So if there are 6 kids in a room, there's going to be 1 nurse and 1 patient care tech.
That's incredible.
Yes. And then of course we have therapists all day long who are in and out of the rooms who help greatly all day long.
Yeah. And we kind of, and it's great for us because the kids are already there and we can kind of morph into their day. If you need help for feeding, okay, we'll know we're there. If you need help working on ambulation, they know how to work that in the day. We work around nap schedules. We work around
Mother's Day, Father's Day, all the little things that we do. You guys can sit and help us, get all of those things.
I do have another question, something we didn't touch on. Obviously, I know the answer, but maybe our audience doesn't. Getting to and from the center, because I know centers are actually few and far between.
They are.
And we do travel for some of our kiddos, but if you want to touch on
what's the range.
So you can pick your child up or drop your child off. We're right here in North Naples across from Target, or we have buses that will come and pick your child up, and there is a trained medical professional on the bus with your child. So we will go all the way up to Estero, and we pick kids up in Immokalee and South Naples almost to Marco Island. So anywhere in between.
Bonita is very well
Bonita, is accessible. We have several kids up that way.
If you live outside that range?
If you live outside that range, we have met parents before somewhere along the line to like transition the kiddos and trade off. You're more than welcome to bring them, but we'll try to work it out. We're pretty good about trying to get your kiddos in the door because we know the next center is pretty far away.
And the buses are wheelchair accessible.
The buses are wheelchair accessible. Like I said, there's a trained medical professional on every bus in case something were to happen. So, there's the bus driver and then an additional person.
Yeah. So if you're talking about people that are coming into the center, children, are there certain diagnosis or requirements that you have for these kids?
They have to have a medical diagnosis that requires a nursing intervention of some sort. So that can be anything from a NICU baby that comes out that just needs additional care, monitoring. Maybe they have a cleft of the palate. Maybe they're just not tolerating their feeds and they're worried that they're aspirating or they're not gaining enough weight. Maybe they're failure to thrive. So we can take those children all the way up to kids who are trach vented, have a central line, colostomy bag.
So kind of like a really wide range.
Very wide range. If you ever have questions, please reach out and ask. We're more than happy to try.
Yeah, and just for like a reference too of the kids that we're currently serving, I know some of the diagnoses include, and a lot of them have multiple diagnoses, which make them qualify for that need, whether it's they need one med administered during the day.
Seizures, if your child has seizures and they just need to be monitored throughout the day, and that's a qualification.
And cerebral palsy. Down syndrome with some feeding or some other medical
or
component.
heart condition that goes along with that usually. Seizures.
What about diabetes?
Dependency, diabetes type 1. We have a couple of kiddos who have that along the way.
Anyone that's requiring, like, even if it's like one infusion a week or something like that, or
yes, if they have like hemophilia, that qualifies. just about anything where we would have to administer a medication or a nurse has to monitor that child for something during the day.
Right.
There's thousands of qualifying.
So
diagnoses.
it's always better to ask.
Always better to ask and see, because there have been parents who are like, I don't think they're going to get qualified. And then the more digging we do, we find out, oh yeah, they have a genetic condition that could lead to seizures or could lead to further damage.
It's just kind of like a prevention.
It's a preventative measure to make sure that that child doesn't end up more critical than they are right now.
Besides a medical diagnosis, what other qualifications would they need in order to qualify for PPEC?
So they would need to be on Medicaid. So we do only accept Medicaid. So it's a 0 fee for the parents who attend our program.
And that includes transportation.
And that includes transportation and therapy. So you will pay nothing for our services. And that's all of our services. And we can help you get the correct Medicaid. If you don't have it, we can work on getting you into a Medicaid plan.
Yeah, and I say that like just from working with y'all or out of all the companies I work for in my life, like just bend over backwards to assist our families, because it's a lot to navigate all of these things, and one, you don't realize the resources that are available, and two, you have to kind of pick the correct resources, right, to be able to qualify for these things. So y'all are so great about helping. And these kids get a whole
team of people once they get approved for PPEC. They get a case manager, they get, us, they get all the nurses in our community. They have a whole team of people that comes together to care for them.
Yeah, and then kind of circling back to the multidisciplinary part, like beyond our teams that we have just together, and I speak from this very personally, like we, between all of us have our designated teams that, like, I know we're constantly calling GI, we're calling neurologists, we're following up with pulmonology, we're following up with medical equipment, vision therapy, music therapy that comes in, massage therapy that comes in,
art therapy. Yeah, we have a teacher that comes in from the school district, a hospital homebound teacher.
He's so funny.
He loves Mr. Howard.
I say that is for Collier County though.
For Collier County,
Lee County, it's different.
Yes. For Lee County, it is a little something we could absolutely look into for Lee County kids.
Yeah, and so essentially, hospital homebound, right, is the program, and they come into PPEC and provides like a no literacy task and just one-on-one.
They do any kind of developmental education through the Collier County school system.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and he's there every day.
He's there every day.
Mr. Reliable. That's what I told him the other day. He's a Kenichi, a teacher. Like when he reads, he's just very relaxing.
And the kids love him.
They do love him. Yes.
Even ones that are not on his service will just like sidle up and come right to me.
He's so great. He's
the music therapist is the same way. All the kids get in a little bundle in there. I want to play. I want to play.
Really cute. Yeah. But so I think it's a really powerful advantage to PPEC is that once you're in, you get a team. Like your little village has expanded, and we all kind of become mama bears too, like for your child and advocate.
We help you find appointments and schedule appointments and get to your appointments.
Remind you about appointments.
Yes. I help you get special formula and advocate for you with your physicians if that's what you need. I've sat in a lot of doctor's appointments with a mom who feels like they're not getting anywhere with their physician and they need some help.
And I've seen y'all firsthand, like be involved with telehealth. Like you're so supportive, and navigating a lot of this is very difficult.
It is, and it's stressful.
It is, and these kids have a lot going on medically. It's a lot to track as a family member, and having a medical team advocating for you, I think is such a huge help.
It's very, very overwhelming, especially for the moms who just come out of the NICU. It's a scary process for a parent.
Megan, how do you handle our families that are coming from different backgrounds with different, not necessarily English as their first language?
So we do have lots of staff members who speak Spanish. We have a phone line. We have somebody else that speaks Creole.
Yes,
so we will find a way to make sure that you are able to communicate with us and we are able to communicate with you.
I just know for some of our families that are coming out, getting all these new diagnoses and not really knowing what to do, that language barrier sometimes is a lot of hesitation to reaching out.
So. And then they get very, it can be scary to not understand what your doctor or somebody is explaining to you about your child. So again, we're there to help advocate or sit with you through an appointment to make sure that you understand everything that's going on, everything that you're telling them. I've
And
gone to the
continued
hospital
education.
for discharge so that mom is comfortable leaving the hospital and going home with her baby. I've gone to the homes to make sure that, mommy can get her child in the door. We're here to do whatever it takes to get that child well and stay well.
And that's huge.
It is. It's extremely, we have kids that one of my favorite things is seeing these kids do things that they were told they would never do.
Yes.
Seeing a child walk who was told they're never going to be able to walk. Seeing a child talk who was, all of those things that we get to witness when these kids have, good care.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I
gives you goosebumps.
I know, it's so sweet. I
I love
it is. It's very powerful what they'll do. And there's so many stories I think that we all have, but even recently, one of our current littles, one of her moms was in therapy, and she was just very quiet, like watching her walk and work with PTOT. And I'm, talking to her about other things related, and she's just very quiet. And I'm like, is something wrong? Like, what's going on? And she's like, very tearful, and she's like, I'm just thinking of all the things the doctor told me she couldn't do. And we had just been talking about like considering fiddlers, FDLRS referral to get ready to go to school, right? And she was like shocked. You think my child can go to school? Absolutely, she can. Yeah. And so seeing those things, that is such a really like cool and powerful thing.
It is. And I mean, the difference, I've worked in the hospital and home health and the PPEC environment, and the progress that these children make in this environment is just astonishing to me compared to other. That's why I'm still here.
That's why the therapists never leave.
I know. And you know what? We have staff that have been with us for like 24 years because they love, when you get into doing this job, you love this job. You love these kids. You love the families. Getting to see these kids grow and thrive is very amazing.
Yeah, and even in terms of like from a therapeutic perspective, it's exciting for us like therapists to be at a PPEC because we actually get to see them consistently. That's a huge part of therapy is consistency, just like taking your meds every day.
Just and we get angry when they're not consistent.
And
you have to investigate where they're at.
You guys know these kids as well as the nurses do. If they're in the room with you and you're like, something's just a little off. I don't know why, but something's just not right.
We come running to y'all.
Yes, and
I am guilty of that all the time.
Because you're there every single day with these kids, like the nursing staff is, you know these
them,
kids like the nursing staff does.
Yeah,
and we're all the extra moms. You know when they're not themselves. You know when they're getting sick. You know when they're tired. When their cries mean they're hungry or they're crabby.
Need a cuddle.
We sure do.
Or they just don't want to work that day.
That's true.
I mean, not everybody does.
Maybe a lower scale craft day than walking outside, right? But yeah, it is cool because a lot of times when parents think of therapy, an outpatient scheduled therapy would be 1, maybe 2 times a week. Just because of like your parents have to take time off to go or get out of work early, go late, whatever it needs to be to take their kid to therapy and then take care of childcare after that.
And then all of their appointments on top
and then
of that.
like even though they're doing all this extra stuff, you're still not able to get your child there as often as they would need. So with PPEC, it's worked in. Like they get it. They get the max that insurance allows.
And they're getting it. Unless they're not in the building for the week, then they are getting all of their
and to touch on that too, our families still take vacations. They still do what they need to do. But if us as therapists know on a Monday, okay, they're not going to be here Thursday, Friday, we'll push all of their therapies to the front of the week. So that way they get their therapies for the week and they can still go on vacation and not miss out. That's one of the positives of being flexible in our PPEC.
And there's such a shortage of therapy. Some of these kids are, like you said, getting therapy 1 day a week for 30 minutes. And that's just not gonna cut it for a lot of these.
And even when you think about like the drop off in services too, we talk about we love these kids to go and graduate. But you have to realize when you do go to school, you drop down from therapy one-on-one, 3 times a week for an hour for times 3 therapies. That's a lot of therapy. To you get maybe speech, 30 minutes with the group.
With the group.
Maybe OT, never.
Maybe OT if it's a related service.
Exactly. So like your resources, they do drop off. So like I love whenever families take early advantage of PPEC because it sets your child up for success. No matter what severity level they're at or what diagnosis they they have or how bad you think it is, we
It's
got
okay,
this.
we
We've
got
got
it.
this to
And
help you.
we got it.
You've
Yeah.
got a team in us. Yeah. So
And
I
our
love
goal
this.
is to, when they go to that school setting, is for them not to need that much
Support.
chance
Mhm.
and to be able to scale back through the years of them being with us as babies and start hitting it hard when they're really little, and then scale it back as they get to that 3 and 4-year-old mark.
And the idea is that it's caught up, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, just like with development and a child's brain, that first 3-4 years
Huge.
is huge with therapy, with their medical care, with everything, their developmental socialization,
Behaviors.
all of these things, behaviors, these things that are so important that we grasp and get, in a good schedule before we send them off.
Exactly.
To school.
And you know what else I love about PPEC is the high quality time for toileting.
Yes.
One of my favorite things is the little froggy urinal. OT
We
and
have
nurse
lots of
cookies.
potties.
I know.
Lots of potties.
But it's cool though, because a lot of times these kids are like learning potty training and getting potty trained while at PPEC. Like, that's another added plus to these parents too.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we see, at least on our end, which is very different from the outpatient setting, is especially when our families come in and they have this new baby and maybe, diagnosis that they don't quite understand, is that educational component of being, is it okay that I am my child is a G-tube and I'm rolling them around on their belly and we're doing tummy time, and is it okay that they're doing this? And the more that they see us interact with them and okay, it's okay, we're going to do this, the more they feel comfortable of carrying over those skills at home.
Yeah, because that is always our job from therapists, and I'm sure nursing is the same. We want the parents to be able to do all of these skills at home, whether it's medication management, feed tube management for all the other.
I've had parents come in, we change their trach every week with mommy standing by because she's not comfortable doing it herself. And then we've done that for months on end until she's comfortable.
Yeah, and I know we had a family that you literally labeled like
everything. We color-coded medications and
make it functional.
Make it functional for the parents to be able to care for their child.
Yeah,
in all aspects. It's an important. And moms come out of the NICU and the very last thing that they want to do is leave their baby with somebody. And I understand that's so hard. But I always try to get them to, we'll just send them 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Send them enough to get therapies in, because your child needs so much as soon as they get into that NICU.
And they get so much from it at that young age.
They do, yes. And so we'll take them part-time, just long enough you can have a break and drop them off, and they'll get their care and therapy. And most parents end up like, I'll bring them 4 days a week. I'll bring them 5 days a week, because they can see the improvement in their child and the progress, and they want more progress and more improvement. So they keep sending them more.
Well, and we can talking about the benefits of PPEC, right? That's what you're listing. We're thinking of a lot of times these children, it's a spectrum of need. Like some kids have high medical needs, some kids have lower medical needs. Whatever it is on the spectrum, though, this can be a lot for parents to manage, like we keep talking about, right?
Yeah.
So having PPEC there as a resource, you can either you have some free time and your child is well cared for, so you can go get your nails done, go back to work,
take care of yourself, mommy.
Yeah, exactly. And daddy's high burnout with caregivers, and
it's hard enough to have a newborn baby at home. But when you have a newborn baby
with additional
medical needs, it's hard. It's overwhelming. It's a lot. And we are here and more than happy to. We love what we do. That's what we do. This is our heart and soul.
Megan, you mentioned that when you talk to families and they're a little hesitant about coming to PPEC, you tell them, come 3 days a week. For what is your minimum requirement for kids to be qualifying for PPEC?
We would like them to come at least 3 days a week, because that's considered part-time. And the reason for that is that most therapies are done 3 days a week, right? For an hour at a time. So we try to at least get them there 3 days a week for their therapies. I've had kids come 2 days a week, for a full day. We'll do that because I understand it's hard for a mom to leave her child, or a dad. It's difficult because you don't know us and you're dropping your child off to somewhere and they have medical needs and it's scary. So we're fully okay with the 2 days a week or even 1 day a week. And they need to be there at least 4 hours for the day to be able to get everything in day. I mean, if they're there 3 days a week and they're getting therapy, and that's also discipline, that's a lot of therapy in just 4 hours. And we don't want to overwhelm the child or them out too much. So we do like to break it up a little bit for their comfort and safety and well-being as well.
Now, you mentioned that PPEC is Medicaid. What if a family doesn't have Medicaid and they have a child with medical needs? What would you recommend? I know this is something we've talked about before.
Yeah,
and there's some shortages in our system.
There are shortages in our system, and there's a growing issue of families, unfortunately, they're making more money than what the Medicaid cutoff, and we're working diligently to try to help that and change that.
Yeah, I know that there's some
especially in this area, it's a lot. You know, parents, both families or parents need to work right now to make ends meet. But a lot of times, if your child has medical needs, they can get medically needy Medicaid. So that their needs, and it's kind of like a share of cost plan, but we have programs that we can hook you up with to help you get Medicaid and find the best program for you. Make sure that your doctors don't change, make sure that therapy is going to be involved in all of that, make sure transportation. So we have organizations that will help these parents get.
Okay. So if they're, because I think of some of our families that have,
we're doing the same thing right now.
I mean, and we, because we have our outpatient clinic where we're at right now, we only accept Medicaid as insurance too, because there's just the insurance world is a very, very hard world, and it shouldn't be in charge, but it is definitely in charge of how we do healthcare. And that's the way it is right now. So we try to do our best to help these families. But so if, for example, I have families that have Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or something like that, what would be their next step? Should they contact you? Should they just call Medicaid? What should they do?
They can call us, and I can give them the information. There is a nonprofit in Florida that helps families who maybe have private insurance or no insurance at all get medically needy Medicaid for their child. They can get then the Social Security benefits for their child, especially if their child is significantly medically fragile. It's just a high cost child at that point. You're going to have medical bills. And you get more services. Exactly. When your child is on Medicaid and it's a medically needy Medicaid, you get more services than private insurance, because that children's medical services kind of Medicaid is set up specifically for children who are going to have needs. Yes. And we know they're going to need wheelchairs and standers and devices and equipment and food and meds. And so it is set up specifically for those children who are going to have all of those.
Okay, well, good to know.
So give us a call. I've walked parents through the process, and that it doesn't work out, and that's fine. I've still helped them, connect with organizations that can help.
Yeah, definitely.
We do take self-pay, but it is a medical facility, so
it's pricey.
And it's pricey, but if that's an option for you, we will accept that. But it's always good to just call and see if we can help you.
Yeah, definitely.
And we will do everything we can to help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And one other big thing I think is a benefit to having PPEC that ties into OT and PT is your equipment, right? Your SMOs and AFOs. So what if your child has orthopedic needs or splinting? What happens at PPEC with that?
No. We have partnered with a couple of durable medical equipment companies in the area. Us as the therapist kind of took the lead on that because we do a lot of the recommendations for that. So when a child comes in, regardless of whether they have the prescription from the doctor or not for this equipment, if we as the therapist determine there is a need, we'll reach out to the doctors and get that referral. And then once that takes place, actually have the equipment company come out, measure the child, fit the child for that piece of equipment. Then we do our letter of medical necessity to the insurance company. Once it's all submitted on their end and they place the order, we just wait for it to come in. When it does come in, it can be either delivered to the home if it's, for the family themselves, or if it's specific to therapy, we do allow them to drop off the equipment to us, make sure the child fits in the equipment, make sure everything is exactly how we want it as the therapist. And then we either keep it at our facility for therapeutic use, or it goes back and forth daily to the families, or it can be sent at home for home use.
And a lot of those people come to the center to do that. So the parent is not required to drive all over and get all of that measuring.
The parents are more than welcome to be involved with as much of it as they possibly can be. But we know with two parent households, both working, having to take time out of your day to come in for those essentially their medical appointments, us as the therapists provide the ability to transfer them in and out of their chair onto different surfaces so they can be measured, movement of their different limbs, so we know, okay, what is it that we're looking for? How can we facilitate these movements? So it takes a lot of pressure and stress off of the families that ultimately would be one more thing that would just overwhelm someone in this new environment, in this situation.
And then to tail off of that, it's the same thing like how you do education with your medication administration, trach changing. We have parents come in whenever they want to come in. We're available like to come in for therapy and learn about what we're doing, why we're doing it, to again promote that carryover at home. So it's kind of like you can't avoid being educated.
And even things that we've worked together on is more that education, especially for our littles that have trachs and G tubes, and families are actually just worried about cleanliness and care, like bathing and cleaning of G tubes, or when God forbid,
can I still do tummy time with you?
Yeah,
things like
That's
that.
a big one. That's always a big question.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
You want to see better.
Talk
about
and
it
yes, we do
another
it. But yeah, so that's a lot of the benefits of having this multidisciplinary approach, and all of these medical professionals who this is their livelihood. This is what we live for. We love to see our kids thrive and progress, and we love to see our families learn these new skills and feel confident in their ability to take care of them.
And get excited to see their kids like growing. Like it's such a cool thing to see and be a part of. So we talked a little bit about like some challenges with PPEC just being insurance, really. I think that's one of our biggest obstacles, I think, is the insurance, but it's something that you're managing very well and you're a great resource to have. So talking about like kind of the future of PPEC and things that healthcare for kids maybe does differently. I know one of the things that I love about healthcare for kids is very collaborative with therapy and like doing themed events. Always so fun. So like giving
summer event,
fun and holidays.
So like we had Santa come for Christmas.
Yes,
so
we have
cute.
Santa. We try to have the Easter Bunny in the summer. In the summertime, we do pool events, movie days, and we try to have something fun, snow cones, some sort of fun event every week during the summer. But we also do like family events for Christmas time. Santa comes, the parents can come. Santa brings their child a gift.
We did like a little carnival day.
We did door decorating. I may or may not have one.
We're big on the fun events. We try to make each child have an experience like every other child.
Like an inclusive experience.
An inclusive experience that there is no difference between their day and another child's day.
Exactly. And everything is so adaptable.
Daycare or summer camp that they are having a fun day.
Exactly. Like even just the pool and water stuff, like we adapt. Like Danielle's in the pool with the tumble form. Like we adapted to equipment. Like
we're carving pumpkins for Halloween. We're all up in there.
Yeah, so everything is adaptable and like everyone's included, no matter what level you're at.
Everybody is included. Left out. Nobody ever.
Right. So that's kind of, I think, in terms of PPEC, like seeing more future events like inclusivity and things like that.
More future events, maybe field trips.
Yes, that would be fun. So fun.
Yeah.
I hear there's some on the books.
Yeah.
I may have insider information on some things coming about.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming to talk with us about PPEC. It's such a cool resource that I just feel like it's like a little secret. If people don't know, we got to get the
word out.
Here. We got to get it out.
And we've been here for so long. Like we've been healthcare for kids for a couple of years now. But prior to that, we've been here for 24 years. So we've been taking care of these kiddos in the community for a really long time.
Yes, and we always want more.
How many locations does Healthcare for Kids have?
There are 4 in the state of Florida. So there's this one in Naples, and then there are 3 in the Panhandle area up in Pensacola and Crestview.
And are you only in Florida?
No, we have one in Louisiana now. We have one in Pennsylvania. We have one in Texas, but more are coming in all of this.
All the kids. There's kids in every state, man. We need help.
So bring us your children so we can expand more.
And a lot of states don't have PPEC. Texas is new to the PPEC world.
Wow. So, again, the whole state of Texas didn't know what a PPEC was.
Nope, they didn't. So they were only, they were limited to home health, which is difficult because, again, these kids don't get as much services or as much medical care or interaction. Or they're not like their whole world.
I have a big question for you about that. Speaking of home health, is it possible, because I know one of the things that we struggle with is families coming out of the NICU say, oh, well, I have full-time nursing care at home. I don't need nursing care at a center. Is it possible to come to PPEC and then still have like nighttime nursing?
Yeah, so a lot of our kids do. They'll come to us during the day where they can get their developmental care, therapy, interaction with other kids. And then at night they go home and they have a night nurse. So that's like the best of both worlds, because then they have a nurse at night, but they're also getting to get up and go to school and do activities and get a routine and do things that every other child is out there doing.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's good. The kids do so much better when they're not. And it's like for Texas, it's a big deal right now because they've only ever had home health. So these kids never had the opportunity to go to a school like environment.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yes,
love to see the future of PPEC. It's expanding.
It's exciting.
Yes, it is it honestly is one of, because I know Danielle and I are primarily full-time at that center, and it is one of the most rewarding experiences that I've ever.
I wake up every day excited to go see my baby.
Yeah,
me too.
And we are worried when they're sick. We are ill about it.
If you are gone 2 or more days, we're making phone calls. What's going on?
Where are they?
We honestly, and even to the point of like the amount of love that all the caregivers have, like we visit the kids when they're in the hospital. I mean, this is like unpaid things that we do just because we love these kids so much.
This
right?
is a labor of
yes,
that's
it
for
is.
sure.
Once they're in, they just get stuck with all of us. It's great. I love that for them.
Yeah, we get Christmas cards of some of our kiddo. We got a card not too long ago. We had a little girl. She had come to us after having a stroke, and it was amazing to see her walk and talk and graduate from high school and walk across that stage.
I love that. I know.
Amazing. And you know what? Now she went to work at the hospital as a candy striper, and the last year she was going to nursing school.
Oh, that's amazing.
What a success story. Honestly.
We have so many like that.
Yeah.
So many. It's just one.
Amazing.
It is amazing. And it's a joy to be a part of that journey with this kid and their family.
It is. It's a blessing for us.
It is a blessing.
So again, thank you so much for coming to chat with us.
For having me.
Thanks for checking into Waves of Wisdom. Please like and subscribe. Their next episode is a mystery. We'll let you know.
Hasn't been planned yet.
I'll be in Japan for a while. When I get back though,
we'll be podcasting.
All right. Okay, everyone. Bye.
Take home Seaside vibes. Shop our Seaside Therapy merch now. Make a splash in your well-being and ride the tide of neurodiversity to a healthier, happier life. Subscribe today and surf the wisdom wave. Let's support inclusivity together.